Hello, hello, hello. It's me. It's been a couple of weeks, to say the least. You might be able to tell from my voice. I've practically lost my voice. I haven't got much of it. There's more of it than there was. The reason for that? I had COVID for 2 weeks. I tested positive. And on the 14th day, actually, I tested negative, so I'm free. I'm not contagious. But it's left me feeling breathless very easily, tired very easily. And I'm not sure about any lingering effects, certainly my voice as well, because I've still got a bit of a cough, particularly at night. But there we go. I'm sure I will recover. I'm a lot better than I was. And I don't want to wish that virus on anybody. It's not just flu. It is. I've never had a flu that lasted a fortnight, but I've had COVID twice now. First time was before we knew about it. But doctors knew there was something peculiar going on. I thought it was a particularly nasty flu. It was worse than swine flu, which I thought was the worst illness I'd ever had. And this was in December 2019, around Christmas and into New Year for me. And I was poleaxed for 2 weeks and longer. And it left me with lingering effects for a long, long time. This one wasn't quite so severe, but the symptoms, the way I felt, were exactly the same, or almost exactly the same as back then. This time, though, it was everything in slow motion. It was like it was the cough and shivers and feeling grotty that led me to test for, and various other symptoms that led me to test for COVID. And then from there on in, the symptoms came and went every couple of days or so. So I think I ran the gamut of the symptoms, but I'm on the mend, and that's all that matters. And despite everything else, this time I was able to do more than just stare blankly into space for for a couple of weeks. I have been drawing. I'm not going to show you everything, but I wanted to share with you this little book, because this is a new sketchbook that I bought. It's a little A5 one. Don't ask, I've got sketchbooks all over the place, but for some reason I wanted to have, and my autofocus is going bonkers, so let's see if this will behave itself. Will it? Yeah, it does now. And I just felt like I needed something to start something new in and just see where it goes. Been watching art videos. Don't ask me the name of people. There was one chap, I think it's Draw Sessions is the name of the channel, and he's an illustrator, creative illustrator for video games and things like that. He creates fantasy creatures, and his work is fascinating, the way he does it. And I wanted a sketchbook to try things out, and this is what I settled on, and it's sort of like transformed into something slightly different along the way. So let me show you quickly, because this is Saturday. Well, it is still just morning. It's the 2nd of November. It's grey and autumnal outside. It's a bit of a haze in the air. It's not Mr. Fog, but it's just, And I'm going to try to go live later on this afternoon. If I don't, it's because this will whack me out. Okay? But let's see what happens. I'll leave a note I'll leave notes all over the place, no doubt. That's if I can keep my mind together. It's beginning to slip away already. Okay, and that doesn't mean I'm going crazy. It just means my focus is not there, and I'm finding this out. So this is a Sakura sketchbook. Same people who make Jelly Roll pens, and they make sketchbooks that are quite affordable. This has got something like 80 sheets. I think it's 80 sheets of paper in here, which means it's 160 sides, 160 pages. And the paper is ivory, so it's off-white. It's also very much like thin card, which doesn't do well with heavy amounts of watercolour, but I'm finding that as long as you let it dry, it becomes a little bit more absorbent to ink afterwards, and the texture's a little bit rougher than it began with, but it's okay. And it's A5 in size, this one, and that's why I picked it, because A5 is something I can sit with on my lap. I don't need a drawing board, because A4 is just too big to manhandle. I take pages out of A4 books. Yes, I've been doing that. I'm taking a book with similar paper in parts, A4, because I don't know why I keep doing this, but anyway. And I didn't want loose paper, and I just wanted something where I could just start something new, something different, or just see where the wind takes me. Inktober, I had to give it up. I just couldn't do it. It just wasn't going to happen. I fell ill early on, and I lost so much ground. I thought, well, I could carry on now. If you'd like me to carry on with Inktober out of Inktober tangles, let me know. Or if there's any particular tangles or patterns you'd like me to tackle, leave a comment in the description. Yeah, comment in the comments box. Leave a comment underneath the description or on the community page, community section of my YouTube channel, and I'll see it, and I will get round to answering everybody's comments. Thank you ever so much. Again, it's just that focus and effort. Art doesn't take any focus or effort for me. It just happens. But anyway, I have challenged myself a little. So let's start. This was something I had no idea what I was going to draw. I actually started drawing this way. And if you have a look at this, I thought, oh, I'm drawing some kind of weird science fiction spaceship. Well, yeah. And then I turned it this way because I just didn't know what else to do. And I ended up with still some space, a nod to space and, travelling, and more like a floating city. And these shapes appeared. And so I thought I'd add them elsewhere. So I've got them like bushes or foliage, and then I've got them creating something that looks like flowers around some of these squarer kinds of muka, and scattering off, floating off into space with some stars, both white and black, and stippling and all sorts of things. I think I used an 02 micron to draw with, and an 0.005 micron or other fine liner to add the stippling and finer details. And I've left it as it is. I don't know what I'd do on the other side of the page, but I've left it as it is because I feel that is finished. I like that. Okay. This one was something else I started with, the same kind of, sort of like sit down, see what happens. I like my puffy, sort of like bushy foliage there. That has appeared in quite a lot of my work recently. And I'm going to come back to something about patterns and textures in a moment. Hopefully I'll remember. But again, I got this far and I thought, no, I'm happy. That's it. I've done what I need. This one I did after watching a Draw Sessions video where I sat with a pencil. You can't see the pencil lines on this because they're very, very faint. And I just randomly made scribbles and shapes on there and open spaces and darker areas. And then once I'd finished that, I took a pen to it and started to outline shapes and areas and add texture and so on. I've ended up with this. I have absolutely no idea what on earth I'm going to do with it, other than an idea I've got later on, a particular, because I quite like this. It's almost like a claw, or, it's like branches or twigs at the end of a branch have grown around something precious, a precious seed or a pearl or some kind of little treasure. Unusual leaves and interesting textures, ways of creating textures. Here it's almost like the branches are curling around and holding on to these precious things rather than letting them go. And I have fun doing this. This was a surprise for me. I can't remember ever doing something similar. I must have done it some time, but I don't remember enjoying it as much as I did this in some way. Perhaps it's because over the years I've grown into my own way of working. I've become comfortable with who I am with an artist to one degree or another, and who I am as an artist. What kind of artist I am, because I am an artist. What kinds of things I like, and it just made sense as I was doing this. I thought, I like this. This could turn into, the start of some kind of fantastic forest. And then there's this one. I'll go cover that one up for a moment. Same idea. I just took a pencil and drew some shapes and, things inside, and it turned into this rather rocky alien kind of landscape, as if it's on a different world, or perhaps on a desert of some kind. I haven't done any more than this. I haven't added a lot of texture because I thought I like this as it is. I want to keep this as it is as a reference for future things when I'm looking for something a bit different. And as I'm sat here, I was going to say standing here. I'm not standing here. I can see this is darker than this. So this looks more forward. And yet when you follow the lines, this should be in front. So I haven't quite got all of that perfect, but it doesn't matter. And here I I drew this here, and I thought, what on earth do I want to do with this? I could have gone round my usual kind of way, adding, kinds of mucas or other shapes and just filling the page in a very characteristic style that is me. But I decided to go with contrast. So from very organic and rounded and swirly, I wanted to have things that were more structured in a way and mostly black and white, very graphic. Coloured these in. I used watercolours for this. They were mainly Daniel Smith's. I think I've made the colours here too dark. I'm not very good with watercolour, but it's what I had at hand at the time. And I added this section, and then this one, and then here I decided to add some more flowers down there, peeking out from underneath. So I'm starting to add layers. Didn't think, because I could have done the same further along here and added another group of flowers somewhere and have these sat behind, so it ends up with that kind of dimension. I haven't added any shading or anything to bring out that dimensionality, that sense of volume, the sense of layers, but it's a sketchbook, so it's something for me to think about and consider. And what's nicer is I left the page behind blank so that I can make notes on it, which I should have done, or should be doing now, but I'm not. So I went from this and I thought, oh, I wonder what else I could do. So I thought, let's have a look at a monogram. And that's what I did. Of course, I chose A because it's the first letter of the alphabet. Not because it's my initial, it's just start at the beginning. And I like the shape of the letter A. So I drew a square, I drew an A inside. And then I used a pencil to add arches. And then I split the sections up into squares and strips and so on, and just took it from there. Now, this work is very much influenced by an artist called Rebecca Blair. I've mentioned her before. I absolutely love her work. I love how she does things. I love the elegance of simplicity in choice of colour. And I love the geometry of how she works as well. And I also like how she makes her lines have deliberate little wobbles and changes in thickness to add interest to them so they don't look exactly perfect. And I prefer to hand draw my lines and shapes as you do, but I will use a ruler to guide me, so I can keep things vertical or horizontal if I need to. And I don't tend to draw very big arches, though if I wanted to draw a big circle, I'll either get some circle templates out, I'm not going to tell you what my sister calls them from her days as in a drafting office. Anyway, I've got those. I've got compasses somewhere and other things I could use. So there's always alternatives. I wouldn't use a plate or anything. That would get silly because my plates are all big. But these patterns are both inspired by her and some taken from her. This one is just my kind of scribbly I like to do, and little circles here. And you might see underneath this, there's an underlying pattern, if you look really closely, of V shapes. And I realised when I'd done something with those, I didn't like what I'd done, so I decided to cover it in. And here is the Zentangle pattern, Diva Dance Rock and Roll, which is one of my favourite patterns. So I'm sort of here, I'm combining elements of things inspired by Rebecca Blair and things that I love from other genres, as well as observations I've made on my own, I quite like, you can maybe see very palely, I've added some very pale pinky purple, like the flowers. I wish I'd done the flowers this paler colour. And over here I've got some of the lemony or yellowy green square alternating with that very pale pinky purple again. Perhaps some of these could have done with being that little bit more dark or more saturated in colour, but I quite like the subtlety. With this one, I chose a different colour palette, and I chose sort of like earthy browns, sort of like a reddish purpley colour. And I did actually mix them in places. So this is a mix of the more earthy brown colours with the purple to get this kind of shade. Again, in elsewhere, because when you choose just two colours and you use those to mix and make other colours, you get colours that will always work together because they have the same basic tints in them, I guess, tints. And you get something then that works. And I quite like the harmony of that. I know I've said this often, people tell me I'm talking daft, but I don't feel I have a very good sense of colour harmony. I can take inspiration, say, from William Morris, and I'll end up using colours that are far too saturated or of a similar kind of saturation of tonal values. There's no difference in, from light to dark. There's no contrast. That's what I'm looking for. But here, the contrast comes, I think, from the patterns. I'm not sure I've got the patterns very well. I don't know if it's too busy an image. I can't think of the words. So I don't think I'm going to be doing a live today. This will be quite short. I need to do some drawing though, because I've got one of these to finish off. But I really did and have done. I quite enjoy what's appeared. And again, you can see things that this is definitely inspired by Rebecca Blair. These little circles with dots in remind me of something Zentangle or something I've used in the past. I've got this zigzag pattern with lines, which is Shattuck from Zentangle. And here's the what's it called? Somebody will tell me. I can't think. You should know what it's called, and I just can't think of it. And that's another Zentangle pattern. I quite like that, and I like mixing these together. I like. Oh, excuse me. I like this kind of crossover because I'm using patterns or textures that appeal to me, or textural patterns that appeal to me. This one has got some gold on it as well. I don't know if I can get it to show. There we go, around the A, and then in other places I've added highlights of gold. Very subtle. There's some down here. You can't see it unless the light catches it right. There's some little dots in here. And I thought, right, Angela, you can't go over the top with this. But I just thought I wanted to. This was with the gold Posca pen. This one was sort of like revisiting this in a way, but I wanted flowers that would lie on top of the tiled background, almost like it's some kind of crazy medieval floor. I mean, crazy and medieval-ish, but not really. And again, my colours for the greens and pinks and pinky yellows, because I did use a red, I think I used red carmine and some of the orangey yellow colour here to mix the colours so I have variation in the shades of pink, which I like. And then the leaves were all one colour green, the same green, and I've added darkness by using thicker lines and then this hatching the lines to bring shading out and a sense of dimension. I'm quite happy with that. It's very messy of me to do that, but I was working on my lap, and I know I was doing this when I was very tired and I really should have gone to bed, but I didn't. But I've kind of got different patterns of tiling underneath the leaves, and I've used the colours for the background. I've used these rich golden browns and yellows and almost like a reddy brown here. Some almost pastel here and some really bright and intense. And again, I like the contrast of these lovely colours with the simple black and white of the rest of the page and pattern. Again, this one, no, I think the grid I used for this is a bit like I can't remember the name of the Zentangle one. It's where you crisscross lines and you draw like a squished orb, a squished circle in it, and it becomes a nice grid with rounded sections. And I then chose to fill it with rounded rectangles, really, or lines that have got weight on the end to curl them round. And then I added highlights. So I added the watercolours first, then I added the ink on top, then I added white dots for highlights, as I've done here, to create like a little window into space, and here like little windows into space, almost like very geometric windows. But again, this is the kind of pattern that you would find on Romanesque architecture, which is one of my favourites. So with some flair from Rebecca Blair, and there's little spirals filling in here, which is, what's Zentangle print on. And just playing with this one, I feel this one's more successful in many ways than this one. I like the larger size of the areas compared to this one. This feels very busy, and I don't feel I've got the balance of flowers and geometric patterns correct. Whereas in this one, I feel I've got this band of flowers that's lying over top. Yes, it could do with some shadows underneath the leaves to lift that up even more, but that's something I can do at a later time. There's no great rush. This is a sketchbook, and the colours also of the paints I've used are affected by the off-white colour of the paper, as you can see. But I think that one, I was really, looking at it now, I'm really quite happy. I haven't really seen it in daylight colours because my lamp downstairs, because I've been curled up on my sofa, working for ages, it seems, isn't daylight, truly, so a daylight lamp, and it's not very bright, so I've basically been guessing colours, and I'm surprised actually how disappointed with these, how they just don't look right. They look too saturated, and the greens are perhaps a little bit too insipid. Working with colour is something I need to learn. These I'm a lot happy with. There is tonal variety here, so some are more saturated than others, and I've got this lovely gradation of colours here. Didn't want to fill that in. I looked and I thought, I like that just as it is. I like those colours there. This one I didn't leave. I have got that there. And in between these areas, I filled it in with lots of circles. I haven't done down there, though, around there. But I'm happy with what I've done. It just feels like there's something there holding everything together. It's almost like these beg for gold or copper. Copper would be quite nice, actually. This one is one I finished yesterday morning. I'm really disappointed in myself because here I thought after I'd done the blackness that the edge of the flowers was lost, so I went round it with a white gel pen. I'm really not happy with that. I thought it might help to lift it, but it just ends up... But apart from that, if I'd used paler colour or a less saturated colour for the flowers, I think that would have worked a lot better with the black outlines. Live and learn. Well, hopefully, for the millionth time, I've done something like this. Again, I've kept the colour palette quite simple. I've used basically 3 colours here. I've got purples, I've got greens, I've got 2 different greens. I've got bluey green here, but I've got a yellowy green. And that yellowy green ties in with the yellows here. And it seems to work quite nicely overall. This reminds me of something Zentangle-y. I don't know what, but it does. And this reminds me of something Zentangle-y, or one of those, what do they call it? You see it on knitted clothing. Oh, my brain is really not good, is it? Still not firing on all cylinders, barely firing on half a cylinder, I think. Argyle. Got it. Argyle sweaters. There we go. And I played around here by alternating the colours diagonally to see what would happen. But I quite like this purple and this yet more yellowy green together. I've always liked that kind of colour together. That's the worst thing. The rest of it's okay. And this is what I'm working on at the moment. I've got two sections. Well, I've got this line left to do. Again, I chose kind of bluey green almost, and a yellowy green. And I've blended these colours together to gradually go, well, I actually went from a lighter colour down to a darker colour-ish to get this gradation of colours here. And rather than colour every section in, I elected to leave some with the plain paper behind. And I quite like this. I like that I'm doing the same thing, alternating. So here I've got these very geometric patterns, and something here, a pattern that allows the colour to shine through. And again here, the colour to shine through with this. I don't know whether I'm going to put white dots in the areas here. I may very well do. But this I love. It's leafy, it's organic, and it's a contrast to the geometric nature of these next door and the squareness of the box. This one you'll recognise, it's poke leaf, Zentangle, and I just wanted a border up the side, just something there that says, yes, I'm here. Didn't draw it very well, it doesn't go all the way out to the edges as I wanted to, but I'm happy with what it looks like, and I like that yellowy colour there. And I've used stippling, so little dots, just to bring some shadow into it and to bring some dimension into that. I wanted it to feel that this leaf is filled over. And it may be that I might just add some shading underneath, which is something I can try to do now, hopefully. She says, look at this. I've got more remote controls upstairs here than I can shake a stick at. I bought some LED lights you can control by remote control that change colour, or are daylight white almost. They're just not bright enough, really. And I also got a couple of lamps, one of which is downstairs and it projects like wave patterns around the room. And I'm fascinated with that. And the one I've got upstairs has got sort of like spiral galaxies and stars. And it's just soothing to put on as I'm settling down for sleep at night, or trying to settle down to sleep. So I have quite a range of things here. So I've got a pencil. I just need tortillon or a paper stump. Either will work. And let's have a look and see what happens. How about that? I think that would be a good use of some. Do I want a tortillon, or do I want to use a paper stump? I'll use a new tortillon because I have some here. Really have to learn how to make these myself. You can. You just need the right kind of paper. Apparently, newsprint paper, not newspapers, but the paper that the newspapers are printed on, or rice paper. Rice paper's the traditional one. So let me get my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. I've got that. I do need to, I'm going to give this a bit of a sharpen. This is a 4B Pitt graphite matte, and I will zoom in, hopefully for you, so you can see better what I'm doing. That's a bit better. So let's have a look. How do I zoom in? There. Nope, doesn't want to. Okay. Let's do the worst thing in the world is take out the batteries, pop it in again. The batteries are fine, they're brand new. When I bought this, they're not going to run out, like, you know. I've got them the right way round. Okay, let's try now. No, okay, manual, zoom in. How's that? That's not so shabby, is it? Oops. Cancel. Try and press. There we go. We just let this. Who knows? Anyway, so I'm just going to add hints of shading where I want them just to have that little extra darkness. I could dig out my chalk pastels, but I'm not going to. Actually, I quite like this on top of watercolour, just a hint, just to give that shading there, just to bring it out. Now, hopefully it's going to show up on the camera. That is my hope. But I'm not really sure. I've got no idea why the camera and remote control aren't talking to each other. It's beyond me. So let's just have a look here and see what we can do. Just do a couple more. I really am surprised that I'm finding it hard to focus my mind as I talk. And how tired I'm feeling as a result, to be honest. I'll be fine. I'm on the mend, that's all that matters. And I'll definitely do videos, even if they may be shorter. Says she was going to keep this one short, but you know me. Once I start doing some art, I can't stop. But I will call it time soon enough, I think. Because I could just sleep for Britain now. Well, for Wales anyway. So it's more about encouraging this greyness to go into the paper more than it is blending it outwards. I am smudging it outwards so I don't get such a harsh line. And that I do need to use. Which one was it? That one there? Just a bit of rubber, a bit of eraser there, just to lift that greyness because I spread it out too far. And this is why erasers are useful. We go. Now, if you'd like me to do more of these, again, let me know. Let me know what you'd like to see because I'll need some help, I think, going forward in helping me to focus on what's important, I guess. I missed spooky season, thanks to COVID, and Inktober Tangles. And it's going to take me a while by the looks of it to get back in. I know that I need to get out walking to get my strength, stamina back up. But I don't feel today's going to be the day for it. Can you see whether that's made a difference? Yes, it has, hasn't it? That's really, really helped. And I've adjusted my camera so that hopefully the colours that you see are similar to the colours I see. In fact, I think I've washed them out a little bit too much. Now on this one, I want to feel that I've got a shadow underneath this. I'm thinking the light is coming from the top left. So that's always the case for me. I don't know why. I just always put it to the top left. And so this will just blend nicely with the watercolour and just add that hint of darkness there. Oh, you didn't see the blue. The blue's down there. So I've done that one. With these, I feel I want to put shading around the outside of these squares, because I feel that will just help to give them a kind of rounded appearance, you know, like a pillow, perhaps. Let's have a look and see how that works out, is it? I'm not pressing too hard with this pencil. So 4B, I find these, the matte, graphite matte pencils aren't as dark as pure, or as the graphite and clay pencils, the ordinary graphite pencils. They're soft, but they aren't as shiny, which is the payoff for them. And I can cope with this. Perhaps it's because I'm using a coloured paper, or, you know, paper that isn't pure white, but it looks more nice on here. So we've got that, all of those done. And I'll do the same on these, because I might as well repeat in the same patterns. I could have put shading in the centre, I suppose, but I really didn't want to. Might try that in a moment, though. Just move my paper around a bit, make it easier for me to do the tops and bottoms of these sections. I think I've added a bit more graphite here than I did on the other one. See, I'm experimenting with you. And then, okay, on these, I don't know how I'd add shading to either of these. I think with this one, I would add it towards the centre, perhaps, where all the branches come together. Just add that, and then just gently unease it out, just to give a dark centre there. I'm actually moving a lot of ink around, so that's okay. So that's fine. I think with these, I need to put some shading underneath these somehow, just to, yeah, just to lift them from these dottiness, the dotty natures. Let's see how that works. Both sides, of course. And I'll use what's on the pen just to add some shading to the edge as well on the pen. With a tortillon. Tortillon. Right, so I'm going up here. Let's have a look. Now, if you'd like to see Rebecca Blair's work, you can find her on Instagram, Blair Illustration, or just Rebecca Blair. And her work is amazing. There's tons of her stuff on places like Pinterest as well. And there's a lot of people who love her work, and you're seeing a lot of people kind of using her work as inspiration and so on. That's certainly the case here, and it's been the case for I don't know how many years. I've been looking at her work and thinking, gosh, I really like that. And every now and again, elements creep in because we get inspired by what we see elsewhere. But then it's about, I'm not Rebecca Blair. How can I do this so it's me? And that's what I've been trying to work out, I think, bit by bit. And I don't know if I've got it or not. But this does remind me kind of medieval manuscripts or floors, building decoration and so on. or illustrations of architecture and how this is how I would approach if I went somewhere. Let me just move that back up so we can see from a distance how those now look. I'm not too happy with these, to be honest. Let me get my kneadable eraser out here on them, because I can remove some of the darkness there, courtesy of this. There we go. And that's just done that back a little bit. I think it needs shading perhaps around the outside, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. Because whenever I've gone somewhere to draw, I haven't done this for a long time. Excuse me. If I'd gone, say, I can remember going to Tewkesbury Abbey, and I had a big A3 sketchbook with me. And rather than drawing, I did eventually sit back and try to draw the Abbey as a whole. I did from a distance and got the basic outline. But what my page was full of were things that I saw that caught my attention. Patterns on arches, and doorways, the arches inside the church, patterns on tombs, the floor, windows, and so on. And I ended up drawing them all together, fitting them together somehow, sometimes using imaginary lines. I say imaginary lines, but created lines to join things together and to make them fit. And I ended up with a page that was almost like a tapestry or a sampler, a memory hoard, if you like, of what I saw that really, really infused me. And this has that same kind of feeling, or it feels like an embroidery sampler, or a frontispiece to a medieval manuscript like the Book of Kells or the Lindisfarne Chronicles or other medieval books. Some of these are almost like diaper patterns, which are patterns you find in illuminated manuscripts, which are very simple repeating patterns. This would make a lovely diaper pattern, as would this, sort of, but often simpler than that. So if I go back, something like this would be almost like a diaper pattern, perhaps not as ornate as that, but simpler. And this could be. So it's those kinds of things that really attract me. And I quite like this idea of putting things together. I've got rounded arches, which remind me of Romanesque arches. Okay, the patterns here aren't strictly Romanesque, but I've brought that element in. Romanesque arches are very rounded, Gothic arches. From later medieval times, are more pointy. The pointy arch started with the early English period, which came after the Romanesque period, which came over with the Normans after 1066. The Normans were French, and they were heavily influenced by the Romans, hence the Romanesque architecture, the rounded arches Romans used, because it's a very stable arch. And it's just got that feeling. This feels, I'm not sure if I like the strips going all the way up. I think I prefer something that's a lot more like a sampler. It's like gathering together patterns and textures, things that catch my interest, things that I think, I like these, and the colours as well. The same here. I like it with something else that adds to it. So I don't think I did this at Tewkesbury, but I certainly would have done elsewhere. I can remember going to Kilpeck, church in Kilpeck, St Michael and All Angels, 12th century church, Romanesque, beautiful example of Romanesque, hardly been touched over the years. And I know I went for a wander through the graveyard and up to the Saxon castle that's there, some fortifications anyway, and tower and so on. And I sat and drew little flowers that were there. And I think that was on the same page that I had drawings of sculpture and architecture from there. So it's things that I would do, and it would be a memory of that journey. It's like this is a memory of an artistic journey, of a creative journey. Same here with, I do love stars. So you're going to see lots of starry skies. And maybe I will use golds rather than white for the stars, because I like a bit of sparkle in work. So this is a journey I'm on, as I always am with my work. And I love these textures and patterns, but what I find frustrating is that I have no one place where I keep them. This is what I wanted to talk about as well. I know I said I was going to draw in here, but I'm just about out of brain power. I need a very big mug of tea and I need a nap very soon. Actually, as I'm looking at my screen, I can see how the shading has worked. It's really brought these little bars up, hasn't it? It's almost like I want to add something to those bars as well. Perhaps let me find a pen. I did bring my pencil case up. I did. Because I've been looking downstairs there we are. Rather than going my pencil case, I've just seen a pen on another book over there. I do feel I would like to pop perhaps some texture in these. And I think I'm just going to put, very simply, little dots that get wider apart and then closer together towards the edge. That will add some shading as well. So if I put one there, and just get them going closer and closer together. And does that work? Don't know if you can see it. I think you will be able to. And I'll do the same here. So close together, getting a little bit further apart to the middle and a bit closer together right to the edge. And that does add something to that suggests it's bent. If you bend something that goes to the distance, it looks like things get closer together. You've got shadow going on there, so it's an optical illusion. So I'm quite happy with that. Nothing else yet. I'm not working on the backs of the pages because I've used watercolour on this side. It seems that the paper would be okay this side, but I don't want to chance it. So I will use those for writing, scribbling to get pens working, but also for writing some notes in there. And I know I've got some stencils that have got lines for handwriting. I'll have to look for them because that'll be so much easier to use. And yeah, right. So to go back to these patterns, what I have done is I have spent some money, not an extortionate amount, I have to say, but I bought this binder along with 50 of these folder pages. And if I take them out, you'll be able to see what they are a lot better. Okay, come on. These are designed, don't know if you can see the little bits in here. There's 9 sections on this page, and it's actually double. It's got 2 sides, so you've got a pocket on either side. I don't know if you can see. And these are designed for card collections, you know, like Pokemon cards and others that are this size. And it turns out this size is the size of an ATC card. ATC stands for Artist Trading Card, and they are 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. They're a weird number of millimeters, but 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And if I just pop this in here, it fits in perfectly. And I actually did bring my folder up of them. Oh, thought I had. Apparently not. I spent some time yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before when these arrived, I can't remember, is the honest answer, or the day I ordered them. And I kept these out from some cardstock I've got. This is Nina cardstock. I think it's smooth. It's sort of it's not Bristol, vellum Bristol, but it's got a very smooth surface. No good for watercolour, but I thought I'd cut some out. And on these, I've used my corner punch to take a nibble out each corner. I think this is a 4mm radius circle. But on others, I've used the 10mm and I've taken nibbles out of opposite corners. So I've got a nice kind of weird leaf shape in a way. And what I want to do is I want to use these to store patterns on. It's true. too. But what I want to find a square template here so I can put squares on that will be consistent. And I can use colours on them. I can use different paper. Don't have to use this. Even though I've cut them up, I could use them for some things and not for others. Maybe I could colour them with distress inks and use that, which would be quite nice. And start collecting patterns that I like in these. And the nice thing is that I can then swap them around. So I can put patterns that feel like they belong together. So things like poke leaf and these leafy patterns belong together, as do these, which look like seed pods, and these look almost like tree trunks, or held in place by something. And then I've got things that look like stones, sculpture, which can belong together. Patterns, which I call diaper patterns or geometric patterns, which is another collection. Simple lines. I do like simple lines and dots like there. Some here, there's different patterns, and just see if I can find a way of organising them in some kind of way, even if I have to duplicate cards so they might fit in more than one section. And here it would be the basic pattern of this, the triangles, and then the filler patterns would be something else. So you've got the repeating pattern and then filler pattern, filler textures, filler patterns. And that's something I'd like to do. This is something you would like me to do with you. It will have both Zentangle patterns that I'd find useful for this. Not every Zentangle pattern or Zentangle tangle or tangle pattern would be something I would use, but some are. This one, and the shatter, and this is like a Zentangle kind of fragment. So looking at the fragments may be useful, and ways of structuring designs. It might be that I could actually put a basic outline of, I like this layout, so I could put a version of it, but I don't know. But that's a plan I've got. It doesn't have to be done all at once. It can be done every now and again when I'm thinking about things, or when I've got time to do it, or when I haven't got the motivation to do something new, or I don't know what to do. I haven't drawn here because I really don't know what I want to do here. I'm not sure whether I want to repeat geometrics. Perhaps I could put geometric patterns here next to the organic and put organics here next to the more geometric. That would give some kind of symmetry, or perhaps I could just fill them in with rocks or fossils. That could be quite nice. Just to bring something a bit different in there. I don't know. I'm undecided. But what I'm going to say is, I'm going to say thank you to you for joining me on this little journey, this little look at things, the journey that I'm going on, continuing to go on. I haven't started anything. I've just had time, I've just been doing different things. As I've said, if there's anything you'd like me to look at, to tackle, please let me know. If you'd like me to do a regular feature, I was thinking about, Texture Thursdays, where I look at texture and filler patterns, perhaps filling in my cards and so on. I'm happy that might be a nice way of doing things, and suggestions you can send to me. You can always put a link to something you've seen you think I might like. That'd be quite fun. And anything else, just let me know what you'd like to see, because this channel is not just about me. I feel I've got a community here that you're part of. And while I'm not up to starting, I did mention in my last live about starting classes and so on. I'm not up to that yet, as I'm finding out here and now. I'm going to struggle in my Welsh lessons next week, I can tell. But I would like to hear from you if there's anything you would particularly like to see, and particularly if I can put it on a schedule, so that I know that on Thursdays I'm going to be doing some cards for my patterns. So I like the idea of Texture Thursday. I like alliteration. It's a very Anglo-Saxon thing. Their rhyming was by alliteration. The beginnings of words, not the end of words, which is interesting. Anyway, I witter on. I'm happy to do rectangle explorations or pattern explorations because I enjoy doing that. And I also enjoy drawing a design from beginning to end. And I quite like working on a small scale. There's something about this kind of size that makes me quite happy. I don't know why. And I'd like to do things that are smaller. And I want to collage as well, because one of the things that I've seen Rebecca Blair and others do is just to add just a strip of paper, book paper or antique paper or some kind of textured paper in as part of the design. And I quite fancy doing that. I've played with collage, and I've got lots of stuff for collage that I've accumulated over the past, I don't know, year or so, and haven't done much with. And I think that can be something interesting to do as well. And also knocking them back with some gesso or watercolour ground or colours, and then adding patterns on the top of it. I am wittering. It's nearly an hour. I need some tea. I need a nap. I was hoping to do a live. I don't think it's going to happen today. I think I'll see about tomorrow evening, Sunday the 3rd. Oh, no, I can't. I've got to go somewhere tomorrow evening. Oh. Yeah, but it'll be soon. Monday. I don't think I've got anything happening on Monday. I haven't got any appointments or anything planned. So fingers crossed Monday. So until then, look after yourselves. Honestly, I'm on the mend. It's just going to take time. So until I see you again, take care and be creative. If this has inspired you, let me know. If you think I've been waffling on, just let me know. But again, suggestions what you would like. As I say, I'd like to build a community here of people. And I think that's started or has started a while ago without me realising it. And I'd like to make more of that community. It's not easy because there are some things about me I haven't told you. And building a community or making those kinds of social connections can be very difficult for me. But let me know. All right? Enjoy your weekend. Find time to be creative. And I'll see you again soon.